they say the spiritual, and therefore they cancel all those things out. They say there's only one, which is the truth. They also say there are no individual souls. There's only one soul, and that's when you merge into Brahman. Everyone merges into that oneness. So they say that there's no individuality. It's all an illusion, part of the material world. And then they also say that in order to attain Brahman realization, merging into the Brahman, you have to reject Krishna. Because they say Krishna is the sum total of ignorance, or as we say in Sanskrit, he is tamasa, tamasa vidya. It's the sum total of ignorance. So they're all really, nasty things to say about Krishna. And that in order to go back to go merge into the Brahman, you have to reject Krishna. And therefore, although they're engaged in tapasya and do ritual performances, they do tapasya, they study the Vedanta philosophy, but they have their own interpretation of it as given by Sankaracharya. And they end up being the worst blasphemers of Krishna. Unfortunately for them. Okay. Then what else did you
add? So point two, false incarnations masquerading as God.
What? Say it again, slowly and louder.
False incarnations masquerading as God.
Okay, so that is what you call the man gods in India. They're people like you and me, but they claim they are God, right? Because they have a little bit of mystic power. And oftentimes these so-called man gods, they get caught cheating and they get caught doing sinful things. And makes Hinduism look like some crazy sect. Because some people believe they are God, and then they find out that he might have committed a murder, or he's smuggling gold, or he's taking advantage of women, or this or that. And there's a lot of these people. So that makes Hinduism look really bad. Go ahead. No more ums.
An actual incarnation of God does not say, I am God, or I am an incarnation of God. This is how...
And no one can equal them. Krishna can expand himself infinitely. Like, for example, Krishna expanded, the first expansion of Krishna is called Balaram. And from Balaram comes the first Chaturvyuha. Vasudeva, Sankara, San, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. Then from that first Chaturvyuha, from Sankara, San, appears Narayana. And from Narayana, the second Chaturvyuha appears. And then from the second Chaturvyuha, the three Vishnu incarnations appear for the material creation and maintenance and destruction. So what happens is, once you get to the Narayana stage, there's billions of Narayanas in Vaikuntha. Billions. Right? When you talk about the second chapter of Yoga, and from that comes all the Vishnu incarnations. There's trillions and trillions, hundreds and trillions of Vishnu incarnations in the material world, and that there's not just one material world. We're living in one material universe, right? There are innumerable material universes, and in this one universe, Krishna is present in the heart of every living entity, and he's present in every atom. Now imagine the same thing in all the other universes. So no one can be equal to that. You understand? Even the greatest yogis, they can expand themselves 10 times, but they only can do the same thing in each one of those expansions. Whereas Krishna, when he was in Dwarka and he had 16,100 wives, he expanded himself 16,108 times to be with each wife individually. Now, the yogi cannot do that. You see. So no one is equal or greater than Krishna. But you have to know all these things about Krishna to understand that. Okay? So I'm going to give you a little bit of reading to do for next week about what I just explained. It's called the Science of Krishna. Let's see what that is. So, there are two major things that, there are many things that differentiate Krishna from anyone else. But I just mentioned two of them. One is, write it down, mutually contradictory qualities. Mutually, M-U-T-U-A-L-L-Y, contradictory, C-O-N-T-R-I-D-I-C-T-I-O, D-I-C-T-O-R-Y. Mutually contradictory qualities. That means he's far away, but yet he's very near. That means he has no material legs, but yet he can run faster than them. That means that he can expand himself infinitely. Okay? And no one else can emulate that or equal that, or even come close to it. So if someone claims to be God, no, look what Krishna does. He's only 7 years old, but he lifts up a mountain, the entire mountain, called Govardhan, with his little pinky. Nobody can do that. Prabhupada said, someone claims to be God, they can't even pick up a table. And Krishna picked up a whole mountain, right? So there are many, many things that Krishna does. No one else can equal him or in any way come close to him. Let's see what it is. Science of Krishna. Okay, so that's number one, major thing, mutually contradictory qualities. Second major thing is Krishna can expand himself infinitely. He can expand himself infinitely. So no one else can do that. Number three, when Krishna comes into the material world, he does not have a material body, and he's not controlled by the modes of material nature. And he can remember all his other appearances. Whereas we can't remember our previous lives. We're all completely controlled by the modes of material nature with this passion and ignorance. We are suffering three types of miseries. Miseries of this body, miseries caused by other people or other living entities, and miseries caused by natural cataclysms or events. Krishna's free of all that. So these are just a few of the unique qualities of Krishna, and many more. Unless you understand these, you will never really become a pure devotee. A pure devotee understands all these things. That's why they're completely dedicated to Krishna's service. And this is called the Science of Krishna. Science means something, the real meaning of science is something that is true in all places and in all times, past, present, and future. That's real science. So, Krishna is always Satchitananda Vigraha, has a transcendental body. He's not controlled by the modes of material nature. He does not suffer the three types of miseries. He never forgets any of his previous appearances. He is always situated in spiritual energy. Even when he comes to the material world, he's not under the control of material energy. He's always in spiritual energy. So therefore, all these things have to be known about Krishna so that you can believe that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead and it's unique. If you don't understand all his unique qualities, you can get easily confused and you could accept some so-called man God to be God, where actually they're just cheaters. People accept man gods because they don't really understand the science of Krishna. So there's a saying in my language, one who knows nothing will believe anything. So if you're not educated in knowing Krishna, you'll believe anything. So if you look at the 8th chapter, verse number 9, Bhagavad Gita. This is your homework for next week. Kavim Puranam Anustasitaram Anur Aniyam Sam Anuspaditya Sarvaschicha Dataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Kamasala Paraspat. It's a very beautiful verse. It says, one should meditate upon the Supreme Person named Krishna as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. So these are some of the unique qualities of Krishna, explained in Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, verse number 9. So, it says, the first word is Kavim. Kavim means one who knows everything, past, present, and future. Do you know anybody else that knows everything, past, present, and future? Do any of those man gods know everything, past, present, and future? No. They can't even remember what they ate 1 or 2 days before.
Because if, they know that they're going to get caught.
They know if they're going to what?
I mean,
Get
they know
caught?
Everything. Many of them get caught eventually.
Yeah. When you're a liar, you have to have a really good memory. Because you have to remember all the lies you told. That's the way they catch people, prosecutors. That's the way they catch them.
Right.
You're summoned to a meeting, and they'll ask you a whole bunch of questions, and they write down all the questions. Now where's the trial? During the trial, the prosecutor will trick the people into violating what they said, right? And then they're caught, right? And it's called perjury. They perjured themselves. They lied. So you go to jail for that. Right? And that's their trick. So if you're going to be a liar, you have to have the best memory in the world. Otherwise, you're going to get caught for sure. Okay. Okay, so first word is kavim, which means he knows past, present, and future, he knows everything. Then it says Puranam. See, each one of these words is a unique quality of Krishna. Puranam means he was never, he's the oldest person. There's no one older than Krishna. But yet, if you see a picture of Krishna, he looks like he's 16 or 20 years old, because he never grows old. But yet he's the oldest person in the world. Now the third word is Anusasitaram. And Anusasitaram, Anusasitaram, I mean, he's the controller. He controls everything. He controls the sun, the moon, the movement of the planets. He controls your digestion. He controls your heartbeat. He controls everything. How does he do all these things? Well, he's present in your heart as Paramatma. And also, he delegates powers to the demigods. So, Vivaswan or Surya controls the sun, and brings the sun. He keeps the sun in orbit, and keeps, and the sun has infinite energy, which is coming from the Brahmajyoti. And this one person who's like us, he's a jiva like us, named Vivaswan or Surya, he's controlling the sun. See how powerful you can be? If you become a genuine devotee, we don't realize how powerful we can become. And then there's Brahma. He's also like us, a jiva, an individual soul. He's not a god. But Brahma has perfected himself to the point where he is the secondary creator of the material world. Krishna is the primary creator. But Brahma's main thing is he creates, no, he doesn't create, he's a progenitor and produces all the different species by himself and through his sons, who are called Prajapatis. So Krishna is managing everything and is cognizant or knows everything about the universe and how it's working, and all these demigods is 33 million, at least 330 million demigods they're managing. Like, for example, in the city of Seattle, they have about, I think, 18 or 19,000 people managing the city. You have the police department, you have the water department, you have the electricity department, all these different departments. And you have social workers, you have so many things. So they have a huge number of employees. That's just to manage one city. Imagine how many people you need to manage the whole universe. So, and Krishna is managing and directing all of them. Okay, so he is Purana, the oldest person, and Anusasitaram, he's the controller. And then Anusasitaram, Anor. Anor means he is smaller than the atom. In fact, he's smaller. Our soul is already smaller than the atom, and Krishna is in the heart of our soul. So just imagine, there's no one as small as Krishna. So let's see if I can find a verse real quick here, 8th chapter, 4th verse. Let's say 8th chapter, 4th verse says. Okay, just one second. I want to find that statement.
It's
Huh?
in the 8.4 also it says, and I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the Super Soul in the heart of every embodied being.
Oh yeah. Okay, so it is 8:4, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented the Super Soul in the heart of every living being. and called Adiyagya, the Lord's sacrifice. So Krishna is smaller than the jiva, and we are jivas, right? Smaller than our soul. Our soul is already smaller than an atom. And Krishna is in the heart of our soul. It's smaller than anything. At the same time, it's bigger than everything, because he manifests his form as the Virat Rupa that encompasses the entire material creation and the entire universe. Okay, so these are all mutually contradictory qualities of the Lord. No one else can emulate this or equal this or even come close. Okay, so then next it says, so Anur Aniyam Sam. That means he's smaller than an atom. Anusmaret. He's maintaining everything. Everything we see, your digestion, your breathing, your heartbeat, your production of blood, your production of, yes, what should I remember at 9 o'clock tomorrow?
For 8:49 a.m.
Oh, 8:49.
The mic's back on.
Who is that person anyway? Are they living underneath the house?
I think they're actually.
I've got some reminders.
They what?
They're physically living under a rock. You're not
Under a rock?
They're not listening.
Yeah.
Their middle name is Rocky?
You can describe it.
Throw it out the window. I'm just kidding. But Krishna is maintaining everything. So, Anusmaret Ya Sarvasya. He maintains everything. Like, I can't even maintain my car, right? But Krishna is maintaining everything. Imagine how hard that is to do. That's why Brahma is the secondary creator after Krishna. Shiva is the destroyer of the material world. But Vishnu is the maintainer. Because maintenance is harder than creating and destroying. You know, like you ask kids to destroy a house. It's easy for them to do. They start throwing everything around. You ask them to build a house, they don't know it. And you ask them to fix something that breaks down, like the heater or the washing machine or the oven. They don't know what's going on. Right? So maintenance is harder than creating and destroying. That's why Vishnu takes care of the maintenance. Okay, and Vishnu is expansion of Krishna. So he's the maintainer of everything. And then next it says, the whole phrase, Anusmaret Ya Sarvasya Datanam. And then next word is Achintya. He's inconceivable. He's beyond all material conception. Now, if you try and figure out Krishna without reading Bhagavad Gita, you would not be able to do it. You'd end up equating Krishna with your grandfather or something. He smokes, he drinks, he goes to sleep late, wakes up late, You'd end up with something like that. You wouldn't end up with all this information about Krishna, because people would just be speculating. So, but if you read Bhagavad Gita, you'll learn who Krishna actually is and why he's unique. So, he's inconceivable. But yet, Rupam, he's a person. He's an inconceivable person, right? So the Mayavadis, for them, they would not accept this. They said, no, how can he be a person and have all those qualities? No, he cannot be a person. But no, he is a person. And then next is Aditya Varnam, and he's luminous like the sun, but actually more than the sun. if you look at the 11th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna manifested as Virat Rupa, Arjuna described it. He said,
12th verse.
which one?
12th verse.
12, yeah. Divi Surya Sahasrasya. If hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once into the sky, their radiance might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that universal form. Might, he says, might resemble. That means it could be even greater than that, right? He's equating the brilliance of Krishna, right, to hundreds and thousands of suns. And he's saying might equate it. That means it could be even more than that. That's his effulgence. And then he says, he is parastat, he is completely beyond and transcendental to anything mundane. So he says, tamasa parastat, he is transcendental to all ignorance and darkness and stupidity or whatever. So these are some of the qualities of Krishna. This is just this some of them. There's a lot more. So this is your homework. Read the purport to this verse and make a note of all these unique, inconceivable to mundane people qualities of Krishna. Not inconceivable to devotees, because if you have faith in Krishna, you will accept that this is what Krishna, these are the qualities of Krishna. If you're a non-devotee, you say, oh, no, that's not possible. You know, I can't do that. That means, how can he do that? You know, because they're comparing themselves to Krishna, or they're trying to understand Krishna through their own what you call parochial vision. Look that word up, parochial. It's a good word. It means very limited. Or as they say,
Very narrow tunnel vision.
yeah, tunnel vision, yeah.
Narrow limited point of view.
You know what a tunnel vision is? It means you can't see anything. You're in a dark tunnel. Okay. All right, so who else did there?
Mark, I just have a question.
Yeah.
So, can like the demigods like attain these qualities of Krishna? If they like,
Well, you can attain some of them. And you see, demigod is a jiva, like you are a jiva, I'm a jiva. So they can attain some of the qualities of Krishna, yes. Like, for example, you already have one quality that Krishna has. You're eternal. You don't realize it, but you have an eternal soul. So as far as your eternity goes, you're equal to Krishna. Now you have another quality that's similar to Krishna. You have knowledge, but you can never equal Krishna's knowledge. But you can increase your knowledge tremendously, just like Arjuna is increasing his knowledge tremendously by hearing Bhagavad Gita from Krishna and asking him many questions.
so it's based on like we have like the qualities, but like we can't get like the same quantity as the qualities.
Yes,
But like the demigods, it's the same thing for them.
because they're like you and me, but they're more advanced spiritually. Okay. All right. So now, who else did there? All right, good. Did you finish, Barbara? Good. You said 3, right? 3 points.
So the last few ones were a little confusing, so I didn't get to them, but yeah, I did get one. So the homework was to elaborate on the misconceptions that have adversely impacted Vedic Dharma.
Very nice. Yeah.
The first one is Mayavada philosophy, which is a Kevala Advaita philosophy, which means that
Kevala Advaita, absolute oneness,
absolute oneness. And then the
which is wrong.
yeah, it's right. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adya Leela 2.96 says in the translation that the Mayavada philosophy presents such a jugglery of words that even a highly elevated devotee who has accepted Krishna as his life and soul changes his decision when he reads the Mayavada commentary on the Vedanta Sutra.
Okay, that means that you shouldn't listen to or read Mayavad philosophy. You don't have to, because if you study Prabhupada's books, he explains Mayavad philosophy and its shortcomings and pitfalls. Okay, so you shouldn't waste your time trying to read their books. They got these big books like that, talking all nonsense things. So if you take the trouble to try and understand Mayavad philosophy, you risk never understanding Krishna consciousness. Now, I know many Mayavadis. I'll give you many examples. They use the same words, the same Sanskrit words that we use, but they have different meanings for them. So, when you hear them speak, you recognize the words, but you don't recognize how they're using them. Right? And they have a different interpretation for everything. So their main point is nirakar, nirakar, nirakar. That the soul does not have a form. Wait a minute. What do you mean the soul does not have a form? By the way, let me see if I brought that with me. Yeah, I might not have brought it. And Prabhupada clearly says that the soul has a form. And because when you go back to Godhead, you have a form. They say, no, that's an illusion. There's only one soul. But wait a minute, there are billions of souls. And they're all individuals. Like you're an individual, you don't even look alike, right? And your heart might be 70 years, your heart might be, 71 years. Everybody's unique. Right? They say all that is illusion. But yet, they don't deny that the demigods exist, and that they're persons, the Mayavites. They don't deny that demigods exist. But they'll say, yeah, but it's an illusion. So, you see, it's very difficult to talk to Mayavadi philosophers, because they have different meanings for the same words that we use. Okay, go ahead.
The Mayavadi philosophy supports that the Lord has an impersonal form and that the goal of life is to merge with Him. This is a twisted...
No, not what do you mean by merge with it? What is the it?
Like His effulgence.
Not his effulgence, but Krishna, but the Brahmajyoti.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone could misinterpret what you just said. You have to say merges into the Brahmajyoti.
The Mayavada philosophy...
Because the Brahmajyoti exists, it's the effulgence coming from Krishna's body. It is possible to merge into by the way, the Brahmajyoti is made of an infinite number of jivas. And each one of the jivas, which is described as a pencil of light, has a form. Like, for example, if you look at very bright light directly, and really strong bright light going right into your eyes, you won't be able to see anything, right? Because your eyes are covered by the brightness. So that's what the Brahmajyoti is. That's why people think that it's homogeneous. Homogeneous means there's no individuality in it. But there is. There is individuality. Those individuals are emitting pencils of light, right? or light. And it's just like, at night you're camping out and you see a, what do you call those things? I forget the name now. Firefly. Like a firefly.
Fire flame.
Yeah. They show a little bit of light in their body, right? So that proves that it's possible for a living entity to emit light, right? So your soul is emitting light. And because there's an infinite number of souls in the Brahma Jyoti, it's a blinding light. So you could come to the conclusion that there are no souls because I can't see them. Just because someone can't see it, just like, for example, let's say you have a friend who's blind, and you're out walking in a park, and you say, oh, the sun is beautiful today. And your friend says, I don't think so. You say, what? I said, no, I can't see it, so I don't believe it is. Well, wait a minute. It doesn't matter if he believes or doesn't believe it, right? I mean, you can see the sun, right? That's why you say it's beautiful today. And he said, oh, I don't believe it because I can't see it. So who cares whether you can see it or not? That means that we have a lot of limitations. Our senses are highly limited. So there are many things we don't see. Yes? Samara?
So like, what would it take for like a devotee who like somehow like falls into the Brahma Jyoti to like go back to Godhead?
If you have a guru, who's a bona fide guru, he will teach you that there's something beyond the Brahma Jyoti. And the example is Sukadeva Goswami. He was Brahman realized. Therefore, when he appeared in the womb of his mother, he refused to be born, to leave his mother's womb, because he said everything is one, so I can just stay here. So he stayed in his mother's womb for 16 years. Imagine what that's like, right? But he was not disturbed. The mother probably was disturbed, but he wasn't disturbed. But when his father spoke Srimad Bhagavatam to him, while he was still in the womb, he said, aha, now I have a reason to go out and preach Krishna consciousness, preach Bhagavad Gita. So he's an example of a person who was an impersonalist. Now, there's a difference between Mayavadi and genuine impersonalists. Mayavadi is not a genuine impersonalist because they don't believe there's anything beyond the Brahma Jyoti. Sukadeva Goswami was a genuine impersonalist. Therefore, he was able to advance beyond the Brahma Jyoti to Paramatma and then eventually to Vaikuntha and Goloka. So, if you say to me, there's nothing outside of this house is the whole universe. And I say, the universe is a big world. No, I don't believe it. Now, just because you don't believe it and because you never leave the house, you have a very parochial, narrow understanding of reality. Because you refuse to accept that there's anything outside of this house. So that's the position of my bodies. They assume something, and they say there's nothing beyond that. And that's not true. And the example is Sukadeva Goswami. There are other examples also of bona fide impersonalists, like the four Kumaras. They were also impersonalists. But when they met Lord Vishnu, they became devotees. So there's a difference between a genuine impersonalist and a Mayavadi, who's also an impersonalist, but impersonalist with artificial boundaries. Whereas the genuine impersonalist has a bona fide guru and does not make false claims that there's nothing beyond Brahma Jyoti. And because of that, because they're honest, the guru can help them advance to Paramatma realization and eventually to go back to Godhead, to Vaishnava, to Vaikuntha or Goloka. So when you meet people that are what you would call, what's the word? Well, they make boundaries, artificial boundaries, right? And there's a special word in English. I'm trying to think of it right now. They'll come to me. And they believe that there's nothing beyond this artificial boundary that they made. So right there you have a person that restricts their ability to understand things. And because they stay in this comfort zone of very parochial, very limited knowledge. Right? And they're fanatical about it. So it's almost impossible to convince a person like that there's something beyond what they
Sukadeva Goswami knew the beyond already, but like he was thinking that
Who?
Sukadeva Goswami,
Yeah.
he thought he knew like about the beyond of like what like
No, he didn't know, but his father
yeah.
explained to him, his father is his guru, Vyasadeva, explained to him what's beyond Brahman realization. But that's when he started speaking the 4 nutshell verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam to his son. Suddenly Sukadeva Goswami became illuminated with the understanding of something way beyond this limitation that he has of the Brahman realization. Okay? All right, go ahead.
Instruction Shankaracharya gave his philosophers before he left. The most important instruction to remember and follow to his disciples is to always chant and glorify Govinda. However, people are ignoring this important instruction.
His own people.
Yeah, his own followers are ignoring this important instruction, and they're acting and saying, adding whatever they want to the philosophy, and it's not the original one that Shankaracharya.
Yeah, he said, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Mudamate. Give up all this word jugglery, just chant the names of Govinda. Right? So, before he left his body, and he left his body when he was only 32 years old. Most great, spiritualists die young. Why? Because they get the job done. Like Lord Chaitanya was only 48 when he left his body. Shankaracharya was only 32, but they got the work done. One exception would be Ramanujacharya, who would be, I think, 110 or more. Okay, good.
The second misconception is people claiming to be God. There are many past examples like from Dwapara Yuga as well as many present examples from Kali Yuga.
Wait, you're speaking so fast. I don't know.
There are many past examples from Dwapara Yuga as well as present examples from Kali Yuga. King Paundraka was pretending to be Krishna.
Paundraka.
Paundraka, yeah. And he even sent a letter to Lord Krishna saying that that Krishna was the fake Lord, and then that he should surrender.
He said, "Stop imitating me. You're a fake." This is 5,000 years ago. The nonsense people like that were existing. Go ahead.
Later, the Lord got rid of him and his false statements. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also
Killed.
yeah.
When you get killed by Krishna, you attain liberation in the Brahmajyoti.
So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also faced with a similar situation So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there was this mystic yogi pretending to be the Lord and misleading the general public. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur proved that since when the Lord appears, there are hints given in the Vedas and scriptures, and that mystic yogi could not be the Lord because there was no evidence for him being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the way this concept of yogis being yogis pretending to be God, the way it misleads people is that they start to worship the fake Lord, and they end up getting dragged to the position their worshipped one reached, where the yogi, the one they worship, they end up reaching their same position. If they go to hell, then the people who they worship also get
if you accept a bogus person as God and you follow them sincerely, then when that guru dies and you die, you go wherever the guru is, which means really in a bad situation. Right. So, this is in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There was a group of people that accepted a false guru. And he told them to build a boat out of cement. And they built the boat out of cement. And the day that they launched the boat, it sunk and they all drowned. And all of a sudden, Yamaraj appears because he was a false guru, right? And then all the disciples, they complained to Yama. I said, wait a minute, what's going on here? You know, we were sincerely following this man. We didn't commit any sins. He said, yeah, but you were attracted to him and you accepted him. So whatever's happening to him is going to happen to you. But that's not fair. We were sincere. They said, you couldn't be that sincere because you accepted a cheater as God. So that's right there. It's right in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have to be careful. Just like there were a lot of people that accepted Duryodhana because Duryodhana was a good manager in many ways, but he was envious of the Pandavas, and he was also envious of Krishna, although he didn't show it too much. But when he refused to follow Krishna's instructions, that's when he showed it. And so whoever followed Duryodhana got killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra because they chose the wrong side. The same thing can happen to us today. If you choose the wrong side, then whatever happens to the leader of that side is going to happen to you. Right? So, for example, you see these signs, and they have these signs in school also, you know, Black Lives Matter. Right? Now, if you say all lives matter, they object. No, only Black Lives Matter because well, you're a teacher, right? So am I right?
Yes.
Now see, when they say only Black Lives Matter, that is racism. That's exactly what Hitler said. He said only the Germanic race matters, and the ones that we consider lower, we'll kill them. And they killed people that they considered lower than the Germanic race. They actually, they didn't only gas the Jews, they gassed gypsies, they gassed people that had deformations in their body, they gassed communists. They actually believed in purifying the human race by getting rid of all the people they thought were not on the level of human being, although they're human beings, you see? So when you choose one race particularly over all other races, that's called racism. Right? Now, is anyone explaining that? No, they don't explain it, right? They say, no, you have to give them special treatment because, you know, too many of them are getting killed by the police. The police are bad. We want to eliminate the police also. What? Are you crazy? Going to eliminate? You live in a place where there's no police. You just see what's going to happen, right? So, anyway, this idea that only Black lives matter is racism. Yes.
We hear about that a lot in school, that the police only pick on black people. And that's not good.
Well, they don't only pick on black people, they pick on anybody who's breaking the law. See, the problem with many of the black people that get shot by the police, they refuse, like one time, I was stopped by a police car. Because I must have been speeding a little bit. So I got out of my door to go and talk to the policeman. I said, get back in your car right away. I said, but I waited. He said, don't say anything. Get back in your car. I said, okay. I went back to my car. So he didn't kill me. But if you don't get back, if you don't listen to what he says after you get stopped, and you start fighting with them, they can shoot you. Right? If you just simply listen to them, okay, he might give you a ticket, he might not give you a ticket. Or you might have to go to court, and you can argue with the judge, and sometimes the judges, you know, they throw the case out. And, you know, there is what you call a process to follow, right? But what these people do, it can be white people, it can be black people, it can be Mexicans. They don't listen to what the policeman says, and they start fighting with them. So then the policeman has a right to shoot that person, although it seems unfair, but you know, if you start becoming belligerent and fighting with them, they can shoot you. That's what they're trained to do. Huh?
It's in the name of self-defense, right? They have the right to do that.
Yeah, because they don't know what can happen, right? So, therefore, it's basically a false narrative. If people whether they're white or black or Mexican, whatever, if they simply follow the rules, nobody's gonna shoot them, right? And if you keep fighting, you'll get shot. And so the policeman told you, get back in your car. And I said, okay, I have to walk back to my car. Okay, so go ahead.
The third misconception is worshiping demigods as equal to the Lord. This is also the second offense to the holy name. Srila Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita 4.12, there is a greater misconception about the gods or demigods of this material world and men of less intelligence. Although passing as great scholars, take these demigods to be various forms of the Supreme Lord. Actually, the demigods are not different forms of God, but they are God's different parts and parcels. God is one, and the parts and parcels are many. The Vedas say, Nityo Nityanam. God is one. Ishvara Parama Krishna. The Supreme God is one. Krishna and the demigods are delegated. No, the Supreme God is one. Krishna. And the demigods are delegated with powers to manage this material world. These demigods are all living entities, Nityanam, with different grades of material power. They cannot be equal to the Supreme God, Narayan, Vishnu, or Krishna. Anyone who thinks that God and the demigods are on the same level is called an atheist, or Pasandi.
Pasandi.
Even the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva cannot be compared to the Supreme Lord. In fact, the Lord is worshipped by demigods such as Brahma and Shiva. Shiva Virinchi Nuta. It also says in Bhagavad Gita 7. Yeah, that's the end of the quote. It also says in Bhagavad Gita 7.22 and 23 that the power that the demigods have is given by the Lord himself, and that anyone who worships the demigods go to their planet. And since that is also temporary, they run out of good karma and they again fall back down to their material planets.
Very good. She's giving scriptural evidence, right? Where did you get those phrases from, those paragraphs?
I got them from Bhagavad Gita 4.12 purport, and then Bhagavad Gita 7.22 and 23.
Very good. Go ahead. Keep going.
The fourth misconception is performing Vedic ritualistic activities for material benefits. According to the purport of Bhagavad so I kind of merged the fourth and the fifth misconception.
What is the fifth?
It's that karma, jnana, and mystic yoga are adulterated for material desires. I didn't really get that one, but yeah. The fourth misconception is performing Vedic ritualistic activities for material benefits. According
Hey
to
guys, listen please. Don't play with your feet. Don't put your fingers in your mouth. Don't hold hands. Okay. Just listen. Go ahead.
According to the purport of Bhagavad Gita 4.25, there are three kinds of sacrifices. Those wanting material benefits perform sacrifices to gain a favor from the demigods. Then personalists sacrifice their individuality to merge into the Lord's effulgence. And the devotee sacrifices everything for the pleasure of the Lord. It says in Bhagavad Gita 5.29 that Lord Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. And that is true because the Lord is greater than everyone in every aspect. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and He provides everything to us. Serving the Lord is like performing Gangapucha, taking water from Ganga and giving it back to her. But directing all austerities and sacrifices is the least we can do to serve the Lord.
So one time, there was a little boy who was like 5 or 6 years old. He said, Daddy, can you loan me $5? And his father said, why do you want $5? I can't tell you, Daddy, it's a secret. He said, okay, here's $5. So 1 week later was his father's birthday. So on his birthday, the little boy gave a gift packet, a gift box. And when he opened it up, it was a pink tie with a blue elephant. And the father said, oh, this is the best tie I've ever had in my life. Now, of course, he was not telling the truth because who wants a pink tie with a blue elephant? and then he said, how did you buy this? He said, well, Daddy, that's a secret also. It wasn't a secret, it's the $5 that he gave him, right? But his father appreciated it because it was a sign of love, right? So the same way, you're going to worship Ganga, you take some of the water of the Ganga and you offer it back to her, right? And that's what we're doing, we buy an apple and then we offer it to Krishna, right? We're taking an energy of Krishna and offering it back to him. But if you do it sincerely, Krishna appreciates it and will protect you and bless you. So we have to learn these things. There's nothing we can give Krishna that he needs because he's created everything already, right? But he's looking at our love and devotion. That's what he's looking for. So, and then it says, Patam Pushpam Phalam Tuyam. Let's see what he says there. He says, 9:26. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So what are the most important words in that short sentence that I just read? Mother.
Probably offer and fruits, seed.
No.
Love
Come on,
and
think
devotion.
deeper. Let me read it again, ready? If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it.
It's love.
Very good. See? If you listen carefully, you'll know. You listen carefully the second time, you got it right. So, if you offer a little bit of water from Ganges back to Ganges, Mother Ganges, with love and devotion, she accepts it. You get an apple or something, and you offer it to Krishna sincere, not something, fruits or vegetables or milk or lentils or nuts or something. You offer it to Krishna with love and devotion, he'll accept it. If you offer it perfunctorily, look that word up. Perfunctorily, P-E-R-F-U-N-C-T-O-R-Y. Perfunctory or
Carried out with a minimum of effort.
What?
So the perfunctory is carried out with a minimum of effort.
Now keep going. Read some more definitions.
Mechanical.
Right.
Yeah.
Mechanical. There's no love involved. There's no devotion. It's all mechanical.
Lacking any interest or enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's just like, if your mom says to Agastio, make the offering. So, get an apple, place it in front of the deities, and say, oh, I'm just joking. It's done, right? It's done without any enthusiasm at all. It's done mechanically, right? And obviously Krishna's not going to accept the offering. But if you offer it with love and devotion, then Krishna will accept it. And that you have to prepare it nicely. You have to have taken a shower, nice clean clothes. It's a whole process to make an offering. Okay, go ahead.
That's what I wrote too. The Lord has everything. The only thing He looks for in an offering is the love and devotion it's offered with.
Right.
And then the sixth misconception is the false concept that service to mankind is service to God. This is not true. For example, if you see a homeless person and give them money, then they take it and go perform sinful activities with it. Not only will the homeless person get the reaction of their sin, but so will you.
You get 1/6
Yeah.
of the reaction.
Why is it specifically that number?
Why? Why do you have a nose? Huh? Do you know why you have a nose?
To smell.
Yeah, so therefore when you give a homeless or somebody $5 and they buy beer with it, you get 1/6 of the sinful reaction. Right? Why do you have to pay, let's say you make more than $250,000 a year, why do you have to pay 35% tax to the government? Because that's a law. And 1/6 the reaction for giving money to someone who spends it for liquor or meat or whatever, you get 1/6 the reaction. Okay.
Not only will the homeless person get the reaction of their sin, but so will you. On the other hand, if you give the person some prashadam, both of you will get spiritual benefits. So the best way to serve the public is by serving the Lord Himself. It's like there's like that example of like by watering the roots, all the trees and branches become satisfied. So by serving the Lord, you serve all the demigods, and then the demigods become then the demigods are satisfied, and then they like give rain and grains and all that.
Very good.
The seventh.
No more ums.
Okay. The seventh misconception is that all religions are equal and you can reach Krishna with any of them. There are actually only 4 authorized sampradayas: Kumara Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, and the Shri Sampradaya. These 4 sampradayas are compared to the 4 ropes that can help you get out of a well. And then, that's all I have.
Oh, so I thought you were going to do all 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, very
The
good.
more it got, the more it went on, it just kind of got a little, yeah.
Okay, very good. Anybody else do homework? Yes.
So I will add to what she has said in every
Okay.
point. So the first one is Mayavad philosophy. So there is a distinction between Mayavad and Vaishnava philosophy, that Mayavad philosophy says that Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. So basically they say everything is false and Brahman is the only truth.
Jagat Mithya.
Jagat-
Mithya. Mithya means false.
So that's the difference, because they reject everything as false. So what Srila Prabhupada
Well,
says,
whenever someone says, I reject everything as false, you say, okay, can you close your eyes for 1 minute? Okay, you close your eyes, you get a chair and you hit him over the head. You say, was that false? So what do you mean? I'm going to call the police. You hurt me, So, well, wait a minute, everything's false. You didn't get hit. No, I'm going to call the police. So that's the way you prove to people that everything is not false.
actually I met one person in the flight 2 days ago, and he knew everything about Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. He's reading Bhagavad Gita, but he was saying, we are all God because we are Brahman.
That means he knows nothing about the Bhagavad Gita.
After talking to
It's just like reading the whole Ramayana. They say, whose father is Sita Devi? That means the person never read Ramayana.
Me too.
That's a crazy question.
They even point to the even further way.
Huh?
After hearing Ramayana, they say, what's the relation between Rama and Sita?
Yeah, who's this Sita Devi?
So Srila Prabhupada says that although the world and everything material is temporary, but we cannot say it is false. So that's the main point. And when they talk about rejecting, this is Falgu Vairagya and
False renunciation or incomplete renunciation.
and Srila Prabhupada gave us the term Yukta Vairagya.
That means you dedicate your tapasya to Krishna, to knowing Krishna.
So even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Antya Khand 4.126 that he does not recommend, even though he himself was sannyasi, he says Prithivite Achayata Nagaradi Grama. So all over the world, as many villages and towns, Sankirtan movement should spread. So Srila Prabhupada gives the example of microphone, that even though Mayavadis will say it's material, but if we can use it for spreading Krishna consciousness, then same become spiritual. Nirbandhe Krishna Sambandhe. So we do not give up anything.
No, we learn how to use everything correctly in the service of Krishna. That's real knowledge.
Dovetail in the
So
service.
what they teach you in school is to use everything for your own selfish purpose. That's not knowledge. That's ignorance. But when you learn how to use everything in the service of Krishna, that's real knowledge. And that's when you make spiritual progress.
So Krishna, so basically we have to work for the best bargain, and then
You have to work for the best bargain. That sounds like a money act.
so spreading Krishna consciousness. So that's what Srila
You have to
Prabhupada
make
says.
the best
Like,
of the bad bargain.
even though we are in a
You
temporary world.
misquoted that.
So
Prabhupada says like we have to make the best of the bad bargain.
Yes. So that means
We
you
have-
accept whatever you have, even though you made a bad deal or whatever. The bad deal is you got a body, and you're in the material world. So you make the best of a bad bargain. You should use the body in Krishna's service. That's intelligence. Right. So this is a bad situation we're in. We have an eternal soul, but it's covered by this temporary body, and we're not identifying with the soul. We're identifying with the body. And because of that, we suffer unnecessarily, and we get ourselves into trouble all the time. We make so many mistakes, and we become more and more prisoners of the law of karma because of ignorance. The original ignorance is identifying with the body rather than the soul. And people do it, everybody does this. I remember my uncle once, he said, what is this, you Hare Krishna? That is nonsense. You're not Hare Krishna, you're Armenian. Right now you're a traitor to your religion, to your family, to your race. Call me a traitor to your race, religion, family, and so forth. So he was real serious, real nasty. Right? So I said, I'm sorry, and I left. And 2 years later he died. Right? Because he had bad habits. Smoking, drinking, all that. So what does it mean? Your race, your religion, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Just like one time also I met this Rastafarian. You know what a Rastafarian is?
What's that?
You don't know what a Rastafarian is? They have a long hair that's braided. And their followers, they worship Haile Selassie.
Highly
They
what?
drink marijuana as
They
a part of,
smoke marijuana.
well, yeah, they
It's part of their
smoke.
religion. It's part of their religion. So he was explaining to me, I said, well, your religion is nonsense. What do you mean? Nonsense? You just insulted my religion. I said, I didn't insult your religion. I just told you the truth. He got really angry at me, And he said, I'm never talking to you, and he left. So a couple of years later, I saw a friend of his. I said, how's he doing? He said, oh, he's dead. I said, he's dead? I said, what happened? He said, well, he went to a nightclub, and he was drinking and smoking marijuana, and had a heart attack and died. And he was dancing, and he had a heart attack and died. So I told him, I said, stop smoking marijuana. I said, it's not religious, And he wouldn't listen to me, and he got angry. And look what happened to him. He's drinking liquor and smoking marijuana and dancing, and he falls down and dies. Heart attack. So this is what happens when people follow, nonsense. Okay, go ahead.
So second one is man God.
Haile Selassie was the emperor of Ethiopia, and he was definitely not God. And if you smoke enough marijuana, you'll end up worshiping Haile Selassie instead of Krishna. Go ahead.
So
By the way, if you really want to be dumb and always be a failure in life, smoke marijuana. Go ahead.
so false concept. Madhav Seva is Manav Seva is Madhav
Okay,
Seva.
you covered all that. You said you were gonna
Okay.
mention ones that she didn't mention.
So then for specifically when we say the man is God, so Srila Prabhupada says God is God and man is man. So basically, suppose we say that service of
Well,
God
that
is
means you have to understand what it means to be God. So we have some idea by reading 8th chapter, verse number 9, which is your homework. And Krishna has these unique qualities that no one else can equal. So if you don't understand what is God, then you can accept anyone. You can get the dog and put it on your altar and say, oh, he's God. By the way, the ancient Jews did that.
What? Really?
Yeah.
that's what Srila Prabhupada.
Anyway, that's another story. But they actually started worshiping the God, and Moses got really upset. Really upset. Broke the sacred tablets of the Ten Commandments and chastised them. Anyway, go ahead.
And then I think she covered that how can we serve the whole part by serving the part.
Yeah,
Suppose
go
we-
ahead. Mention something she didn't mention. There was at least
The-
14 points. She
the-
only mentioned 7.
The better service is to give knowledge. So
What?
better service is to give knowledge. So that's what Srila Prabhupada says. That Krishna conscious movement is giving knowledge to the whole world.
I know, that's a positive thing. There were 14 negative points. If you don't have them, that's okay. So we'll go on
So
to
the 7th point where all religions are equal, so Srila
other. See
Prabhupada,
what she mentioned.
so there that God can only, I had a question also, so religion cannot be many, religion can only be one. There can be only one supreme God. So
Yeah,
therefore,
Wahad Allah. There's only one God. That's what the Muslims say. That's what we say too. The Hindus say there's many gods. That's why Muslims can't stand them, because it's like sacrilegious for them to believe that there are many gods. But there are demigods who are servants of Krishna, but there's only one supreme God. That was what our lesson today. He has such unique qualities, no one can be equal to him, no one can be greater than him. So there are demigods, people who have some qualities, but not equal to Krishna. But I mean, you have qualities that are, like I already said, you have eternality. That means you're equal to Krishna in that way, right? Because that means that you exist eternally. You were never born, you never die. The only thing that's born and died is the material body. And the proof that it's born and dies is it's always changing. All the time. Everything is changing. Like for example, let's say you buy a brand new Tesla and you park it in downtown Seattle. And you go into a restaurant and you come back and there's a big scratch on your car. What is that? What are you going to say?
Someone scratches it.
On purpose, yeah. So all of a sudden your car, when you left the car, it was beautiful. And now you come back and it's got this big scratch on it. Right? So that's the nature of the material world.
So-
Everything is changing.
8th point is Mammonist concept of life purporting that the goal of life is to work hard and enjoy sense
Mammonist.
gratification.
Mammonist is a word. You can look that word up. They believe that, you work hard and you play hard. That means you work hard and then you enjoy, you go to Bellevue to the Bhangra in the bar, right? And you drink some wine and you jump around in the Bhangra, And then, you say, oh, I'm practicing my culture. It's not, believe me, it's not the real culture, right? I mean, the Bhangra is, but not the beer and the wine and the liquor and talking nonsense and smoking cigarettes. So that's not the real culture.
So basically, what's the difference between if sense enjoyment is there even in dogs? So what's the difference between man and hog then? So we have to focus on
Devotional
Krishna
service.
consciousness and
The
Krishna
dog
service.
never asks any questions about God. That's the difference. But we should have questions. The dog just keeps eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So if a man or a woman lives their whole life eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, what's the difference between that person and a dog? There's no difference. The difference is when you begin to inquire, who is God? What is my relationship with God? What are the unique qualities of God? How can I connect to God? At that point, you become a real human being. If you're just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, you're doing exactly what animals do. So it's not that we're going to treat you like an animal, but you are limiting yourself. You don't understand what your potential is. What is your potential? You can go back to Godhead and have your eternal body and not be troubled by old age, disease, and death, and birth and rebirth, and so forth. And be in ecstatic relationships with Krishna and his pure devotees eternally. But if you dumb yourself down to thinking I'm just this body and it only lives a few years, therefore I should engage intensely in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, then you're no different than a dog. One time, this English guy, when I was living in England, this English guy who was really a low-class person, but I was preaching to him, and I said, well, why don't you listen to my spiritual master, just get it directly from Prabhupada. I said, okay. So he put on these earphones, he was listening. All of a sudden he screamed, ah! He said, your guru just insulted me. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? He said, anyone who eats, sleeps, mates, and defends is an animal. He insulted me, he said. I said, he didn't insult you, he just told you the truth.
So the next point is the belief that one can understand God by mental speculation, logic, reason, and scientific research. So basically,
Okay, explain what is mental speculation.
so it means that if you have to understand God, we can understand by theory, by speculating, by saying, okay, God is this. It's like
it's the easy way of understanding.
like we.
Speculation means someone asks you a question, you don't know what the answer is. So you make one up. You say, well, it all started by a big bang. And there's no God. There was some lightning that struck a soup of amino acids that were on the North Pole, and it became a one-celled amoeba, and then it became a two-celled creature, and then 4 cells, and then 8 cells, and eventually it became a human being. And that's the explanation right there, right? That's science. So that's called speculation.
So there's recent some other articles that like life on Earth came from somewhere in the space.
From outer space, yeah. We don't know who it is or what it is, but we know it came from outer space, right? It's all speculation. Okay, go ahead. So that's the easy explanation of speculation, right? You don't know the answer, you just make it up. It's just like some people don't know anything, but they're experts at gossiping. Because you don't have to know anything to gossip, you just make things up. Oh, did you see her the other day? She had a blue dress on. It was disgusting. Then they go on for hours talking like that. Hours and hours, just talking nonsense, right? So, they're experts at gossiping, meaning they can just make things up and misinterpret things and get away with it. Good.
And then, so God can be understood by logic, and by reasoning, and by scientific research. So basically when we cannot even...
Okay, scientific research is based on empiricism. Look that word up. empiricism. What does empiricism mean?
The theory that the knowledge is derived from sense
What's it mean?
experience.
What's it mean? Empiricism. Huh?
We learned about empirical formulas.
Okay, what does it mean? What is an empirical formula? For God? Come on, man. You're a walking dictionary. Every time I would ask you a question about a word, you knew what the meaning was. What's going on? You're not getting educated, you're getting de-educated. Yes.
We were also learning about empirical formulas, and empirical formula is basically a formula you derive from your tests or like what the data.
Derived from what?
Like you do an experiment, and then what numbers you get from that, the data that you get, that's you create the empirical formula from that, but it's not the actual formula. It's just a
All right,
ratio.
well, see, that's a mathematical special use of the word, but empiricism means
From senses.
what you can perceive with your senses. That's it.
And like what you derive from the experiments, like.
Yeah, that is what you perceive with your senses, right? So, empiricism is extremely limited. Like, for example, I'm flying in an airplane over the Pacific Ocean. I take my camera, I open my window, I take a picture, you know. And then when I get home, I show my friend. I say, "Oh, I took a great picture of the Pacific Ocean." You know, he looks at it and it looks like a white cloud. Because he took a picture of the oceans through the cloud, right? So, what does he know about the Pacific Ocean from that picture? So it's just the same thing. You know, they send a drone to Mars, and the drone takes a picture of Mars, right? And they send a picture out back. And it looks like nothing, right? It just looks like, it looks something like New Mexico. Okay? So, what did they learn about Mars from that photo? Nothing, absolutely nothing, right? And then George Bush said, well, you know, I think we have to send people to really figure out what's happening at Mars. That means that, you know, sending drones, they don't really understand anything. Just like, you know, so let's say the people on Mars send a drone and it lands in the Arabian desert. What would they understand about the Earth? Nothing, absolutely nothing, right? They'd say, wait a minute, don't go to the Earth, there's nothing there, it's a desert. Right? There's no water there.
Is that the same reason why Iceland is called Iceland, although it's like only a little bit of ice as compared to Greenland, which is, you know, mostly ice, but just on the border of it, they have green space, and that's what they saw.
If the drone lands in Iceland, right, they say, oh, don't go there, it's all freezing, man. You know. So you see, this is all nonsense, this is all crazy, this is called empiricism. You only believe what your senses can perceive. So your senses, all our senses are imperfect, and there's many things we can't perceive with the senses. So how can we understand what the reality is? See, there's two words. There is phenomenal and numinous. Look the word up, numinous. N-U-M. A-N or I-N-O-U-S?
M-I-N-O-U-S.
Having a strong religious or spiritual quality.
What? Say that again?
Having a strong religious or spiritual quality.
No, that's not, well, that's, keep going down.
Indicating or suggesting the presence of divinity.
Anything else?
Mysterious.
Okay, keep going.
So, spiritual, otherworldly, transcendental.
Difficult, impossible.
Yeah, in other words, it's things that you don't see but actually exist. Right?
Air.
So, how can you learn about things that you don't see but actually exist? Like, for example, they say there's atoms, but no one's ever seen an atom. But they say they exist. Then other people say, no, there's waves. Okay, but no one ever saw the waves either. So what is the what is the fundamental matter of the universe, right? So, because they can't see them, they're too small. So they make a conjecture, they make a guess, based on some observations of experiments that they made, right? But they've never seen it, so obviously it's no better than a guess. So numinous means things that you don't see but actually exist, and they usually call it spiritual or transcendental. So there's two types of knowledge. There's phenomenal knowledge, things that you can see, you can measure, and then things that you can't see but exist. Right? So that's why in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter, verse number, what is it? 2.
2.
Says,
If we speculate.
Jnanam teham savijnanam, idam vasyami asesataha, yes gyatva nehabhyo nyas gyatavya, gyatavyam avasisyate. Jnanam, which means phenomenal knowledge, and vijnanam means numinous knowledge, or spiritual knowledge, or knowledge you can't see but exists. Right? So it says, I shall now declare, Krishna is telling Arjuna, I shall now declare to you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. So see, whatever you're learning in school, it's very limited phenomenal knowledge. They totally ignore numinous knowledge. So your understanding of reality by even getting a PhD, going to the university and so forth, is going to be very, very limited as far as the reality of existence goes. That's why most people waste their whole life only dealing with phenomenal knowledge, and that is not complete also. And because of that, they never achieve real happiness, they never achieve real love, and they're always frustrated and angry. Just like right now, there is a big trial going on, it's in the news every day, of Johnny Depp and what's her name? Amber Heard, right? And they were married, and they're explaining everything that happened in their marriage. And it's disgusting and it's very painful, right? That's what happens when you have incomplete knowledge. You never achieve real love. You never are really successful. Although Johnny Depp and Amber Heard both are very successful and wealthy and miserable, absolutely miserable, because they made so many mistakes in their life. You see, that's what happens when you only have phenomenal knowledge and you completely ignore numinous knowledge. And that's why Krishna says, I shall now declare unto you, meaning to Arjuna, in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So, you're not really getting an education. And what will happen is you'll end up like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. You know, failures, and as far as life goes, but successful as far as money goes. They're very successful as far as, but now they're suing each other, and whoever wins is going to bankrupt the other one. But actually they're going to bankrupt each other, because Deep might win the first trial, and then there's a second trial where she is, he's suing her for $50 million, and then she's suing him for $100 million. So, there's not going to be any winner, let's put it like that. It's called a Pyrrhic war, a Pyrrhic, conquest, all right? Pyrrric. Look that word up. It's a Greek word used in English. Pyrrric, I think.
Pyrrhic.
HIC. What's it mean?
It means one at two great.
What?
Yeah, so
Of a victory, one at too great a cost to have been worthwhile for the victor.
Now, in other words, you won the battle, but it bankrupted you.
yeah, that's a huge cost.
It's a Pyrrhic victory. You won the battle, you won the war, but it bankrupted you completely, ruined you completely.
It could be the Russia situation.
Yeah, the Russian situation, yeah. What?
It says a Pyrrhic victory is a success that comes with great losses or unacceptable costs.
Yeah, you won, but actually you lost.
So the numinous knowledge is where you learn that like we're not the body but we're the soul.
Who? What?
The numinous knowledge
Yes.
is where we learn that like we're not the body but we're the soul.
But that's correcting the misconception that I am the body. But are you taught that you are the body in school? No?
Oh, they are, yeah.
Yeah. They're teaching you, see, that's why I say you're not being educated. You're being dumbed down to be a failure in life. You might become rich, like Johnny Depp. He's a very rich man, right? But he's going to lose all his money. And he's been, there's a nice verse from Bhagavad Gita. Let me read it to you now. This is very important to understand. Akirtim Shapi Bhutani, it's the second chapter, 34th verse. Katayishyanti te vyayam, sambhavitasya chakritir maranat atirichyate. People who will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable man, dishonor is worse than death. For a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. So, what does that mean? That means that if you have a very famous and very successful material that you've done really low-class things, eventually it'll come out. You cannot hide it. Eventually it'll come out. Just like, best example is Bill Gates. Everyone thought, he's the best of all those rich guys because he's very generous and he's a family man and he has nice kids, he brought them up nicely, and he's a real gentleman. Then they find out he's a low-class slime ball. You know what slime is?
Sticky stuff.
It's completely disgusting, It's like a slug. Someone rubs a slug on your hand. It's like horrible, right? Yeah, he turns out to be a slime ball. This guy was so rich, and people know he's faithful to his wife, he's got good kids, and well-educated gentleman, he's very charitable. He is charitable, right? But he's a low-class guy. He's like a teenager, right? Never grew up. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, when his story came public, and no one can hide these things. It's eventually going to be known. Then people, they said, "Oh my God, he was the only one I thought that was good." He turns out to be a slime also. One time I was on this public television program with a Muslim guy who was the host, and then a Sikh and a Buddhist and myself. And the Muslim guy's name was Salim. So. But after being on the program like 4 or 5 times, I started calling him, slime. He didn't say anything, right? Because he doesn't understand English that well, right? So I didn't call him slime, I called him slime. Because he was a slimy person, And so was the Sikh. Both of them were slimes. Yes.
What did Bill Gates do?
I can't repeat it here right now, but when you get to be a year or two older, you can look it up on the internet and get slimed. He did what any really low-class man does. So, was that your question?
Yeah.
You want to know what Bill Gates is? You're interested in that. You should be interested in things that he didn't do.
But it seems like every successful person out there, materially, it's a matter of time before their actual story comes out.
Yeah.
It's the America's dad, the person who was the America's best dad.
Critical race theory?
No, the dad of America, what's the black person?
Oh, yeah, he's from Philadelphia, by the way, where I was born. He lives close to my family house. What was his name? Bill something?
Bill Cosby.
Yeah, Bill Cosby, yeah.
Yeah.
America's Father,
America's
right? Yeah, the television program is very famous. He turned out, he was not slime, he was puke. Even worse. I mean, he's really bad.
Yeah,
And he did jail time, sure. So all these people, I mean, who are you going to look up? Yeah, look up to Prabhupada, you won't make a mistake. Look up to, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you won't make a mistake. Look up to any of these other people, 90% of the time, maybe 98% of the time, you're gonna make a mistake. They're not really what they look like. Okay, what time is it now?
9:35.
Oh, man, I have to wake up tomorrow early. Who's gonna wake up early tomorrow and come to Mangalarti? Whoa, you put your hand down.
I have to go to a plane to Dallas in the morning.
Oh, you're gonna wake up to take the flight.
Yeah.
But I was saying, wake up to come to Mangalarti. Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you very much. All good. Okay, homework is that verse, 8th chapter, 9th verse, right? Learn what are really unique qualities. There are many more, but there's one verse and it's a short paragraph. And take notes on it. And look up like you did, quotes or shastric evidence that supports those points. There's about 7-8 points that are unique. Okay, well, it wasn't that boring, was it?
No, it was fun. Yeah, it was fun.
You can learn more here than going to school for 12 years.